Hello, everyone, and welcome to our TRiiBE Tuesday panel. If you're new to TRiiBE Tuesday, this is our monthly panel series. Where we invite community leaders, public officials, and experts to join us to discuss current events in our community. This month, we present to you our TRiiBE Tuesday, a new mindset and vision for the year panel, which is sponsored by the Field Foundation of Illinois. Find out next installment of TRiiBE Tuesday, a new mindset and vision for the year, moderated by TRiiBE co-host and co-founder Morgan Johnson.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you so much for introducing TRiiBE Tuesday. Anthony is our outreach and engagement associate, and it's so important for us to have these talkbacks and engage with our audience, even if it's on a month-by-month basis, even during quarantine. We'd love to be with you in person, but we got to do what we got to do. I'm very, very excited for this conversation today to talk about mental health. You could never talk about mental health too much. So we have an esteemed panel with us today. I'll start with Dr. Larry Turner, who is a licensed psychologist. Dr. Larry Turner is also a registered nurse, substance abuse therapist, and certified yoga therapist. He has worked with survivors of a variety of traumatic experiences in Chicago and in the worldwide community. He is also the founder of the Therapeutic Inventory Institute. Thank you so much to him for being here. Also, we have Dr. Wilnise Jasmine, who works for the Chicago Department of Public Health as the medical director of behavioral health. This office leads the city's initiatives in violence prevention, substance use, and prevention, and also mental health. She is passionate about finding new ways to successfully eliminate health inequities in the intersectionality of behavioral health and reproductive health. She specializes in both preventative medicine and family medicine, and we thank her so much for being with us today. We have Dr. Nyela Malone, who is a mental health therapist. Nyela is a Black mental health professional who has created a lane of her own within the medical health community. She is known as the Hyde Park therapist, an identity in the mental health community that has made her a staple. She is the binding glue of mental health for many millennials as the ambiance of the rich auntie. I love it. Thank you so much for being here. Roshaun Bowens is a social emotional counselor. He's from Nashville, Tennessee. He serves as a social emotional learning administrator for CPS for 10 years. He is now the owner of B3 Enterprises, a psychology education company. They've provided therapeutic services and mental health education for schools, businesses, and community organizations. Thank you again for being here with us. Last but not least, we have Emon Lauren Black. Is that the full name? Emon Lauren Black, artist, educator, poet. She's everything. Emon is a Black queer Scorpio from the West and South Side of Chicago, whose work unpacks her coined philosophy of hood womanism. She was named Chicago's first youth poet laureate, and she's featured in Chicago Magazine, Chicago Tribune, and Vogue, while her work has appeared in the Breakbeat Poets Anthology Series Volumes 1 and 2, Poetry Foundation Magazine, and so many other places. She is that girl. Thank you so much, Emon, for being here. So that's it, everybody. Welcome to TRiiBE Tuesday. This is a TRiiBE staple. When we started the TRiiBE, it was all about, how can we stay in tune with the community? We didn't want to be in the ivory tower, just writing stories and not connecting with people. So we want to make sure that we, create space for conversations like this. For me, 2020 felt like a decade, like there were different stages where it was like, oh, good times, all-star weekend, and then COVID, and then the pandemic, and then the pandemic, and then the uprisings, and it seemed like there was just like a ripple effect of things that was happening as a result of these issues that we were facing as a community, and a lot of collective trauma. So I'm interested to see, for those of you who are, professional therapists in that space, what were you seeing? How is this affecting your practice in 2020? Let's start with Dr. Jasmine.
So thank you for having me on tonight. So I know, working with the health department, we have several medical directors working in the health department. And for me, I was personally working closely with the isolation housing facility effort that we were having. So we provided hotel rooms for people who were not able to safely isolate at home, but they were being discharged from the hospital. And some of the different topics we encountered with people who were completing their isolation in the hotel rooms was that they really wanted that human contact, because going in, once they entered, they were not supposed to leave until they completed that isolation period, which could be about 10 days. And they just really wanted to have a connection. And so it was important to at least not only make it easy for them to contact their family via phone or through provide them with internet so they could have video conferencing, but it was also important to actually listen to what other needs they may be having. So sometimes we were working with people who were feeling extra anxious, and that was with good reason, but we were able to provide them with some tools to help manage their anxiety while they were there.
Dr. Nyela, what about you? What are you seeing in terms of, millennials in therapy, and how did COVID impact your work? Hold on, we got you on mute.
Okay, really quickly, I have my LCPC. I don't have a PhD, so Just wanted to put that out there. I don't want people to feel that I'm falsely advertising that I'm a doctor. I'm the CEO and clinical director and also a therapist at Lotus Healing. And I found that people were feeling really isolated and fearful because everything kind of shut down immediately. And so people were wondering what's going on, what's next. Are my parents going to die? Is my grandma going to die? It was a lot of just really strong anxiety going on, and so trying to comfort people through this, because the toilet paper started running out. It was all kind of just madness going on. And you kept seeing the virus, it's like the virus itself had a marketing tool. You kept seeing this like little bubble across the TV screen, and it was all that was on the media. And so it was a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, and a lot of just kind of what's next. And so kind of working with people through just kind of managing themselves while we were all waiting to see what was next.
Emon, I want to get you into this conversation as well. We're in creative practices, and all of a sudden we can't make connections with people. How did this affect your work and the things that you love to do and your artistry during this time?
Thank you for that question. I think for me personally, because I'm blessed with so much personal ambition and thrive, it encouraged me to change my wheels and my gears very quickly and very fast paced. But the world did not rock with that. The world was like, nah, shorty, you gotta slow up, you gotta chill up. So while I would say it gives you the ability to create more ingenuity, more lanes for yourself, it also makes you think about, what are you personally doing to yourself, emotionally and mentally to like kind of keep up pace or to like stay productive or to stay active. So that was kind of like the conundrum that I was facing with myself eternally.
Mm. And Dr. Turner, there's so many people who attach their self-worth to their ability to work. And, you know, with the pandemic, so many people lost their employment or they were underemployed. How does that kind of like affect people's mental health, and how can they, you know, pull themselves out of depressive episodes related to unemployment? Hold on for a sec. You're muted. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, unemployment is really tough. You know, when you lose your income, because you know, growing up, you always taught that hey, you're supposed to earn your way, and then when that's snatched out from under you, that's a real difficult situation. And if you don't have any skills to go to someplace else for employment, hey, that creates a lot of problems. So you have to, you know, look at what's available in your community, doing what you're supposed to do. You know, doing the first part of the first question that you asked. You know, I was taking care of my mother who was suffering from dementia until she made her transition. So I couldn't do a lot of the things, but I was able to sneak in a yoga class or two, and go to a support group. So you have to find alternatives to the things that you do. And so that's why, you know, teaching our children to be versatile is very, very important. You don't have to go to school just to be a doctor or a nurse. You can be an artist, a nurse, a lawyer, whatever you want to be, if you can pay for those schools. But, you know, you can do more than one thing. And that, I think, is the key in the future for our communities.
Yeah, that's so important. And I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. And speaking of lost.
She was 93 and full of fire.
Okay, well, in that case, you know, we do also celebrate life. We celebrate life, yes. You know. Yeah. I feel like I'm blurry. Am I blurry to y'all? I don't know how it happened, but I'll try to fix that. But a little. Since you brought up grief, there was so many of us experienced loss. And it's almost like that loss hasn't been acknowledged. You know, there hasn't been a collective movement towards acknowledging people who we lost last year due to COVID or many of the other isms that Black people are facing. Ro, can you talk a little bit about grief and what steps that we need to take individually and as a community as we are going through such a traumatic event together?
Yeah, that's actually pretty loaded because that's a lot. You know, grief is actually a process, you know, and you bring up, you know, several different aspects of trauma, you know, because normally when we talk about trauma, it's the individual, you know, but then you have family and community and society, you know, trauma that definitely impacts the individual. And when I think about that, we just need to identify protective factors. You know, they have what they call protective factors. And one of those protective factors is staying in community, which is tough right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic, but it's still vital to not feel isolated, you know, because going back to your first question, pretty much the majority of clients that I'm seeing are feeling isolated and alone, you know, and that's causing all type of anxiety, like not being able to be around their friends and family, you know. So one way to do that is to just make sure you stay connected, you know, and there's different type of ways to do that.
Emon, can you talk about some of those ways? As an artist, I feel like artists a lot of times can keep community going. And with all of these like virtual spaces popping up, have you been able to like find fun ways to connect with people or meaningful ways to connect with people through art? Emon, do we still have you? It looks like Emon is frozen. Does anyone else want to take that question? What are some meaningful ways that we can connect with people without endangering ourselves during this time?
Yeah, I get out often, and so I like to ride my bike and to do different things. It's a little cold now, but whenever I'm feeling isolated in the house, I can get out, go to the store, walk in, purchase something, an item, and then walk out. I can always get outside and walk around the block, and still greet different people in the neighborhood. And then I have to find things to do, like clean up my house and do different things in my house. So I, find instead of doing a lot of procrastination. So if I can focus in on the things that I need to do that I haven't done in a while or have neglected, I mean, they're here since I'm in the house most of the time. So that's one way that I deal with the isolation and the loneliness. And then Zoom and platforms like this are really, really, really big help.
But what about for people whose living situation isn't a safe space or a sanctuary? So many of us are privileged. We have a nice home that we feel good coming home to, but not everyone is in that circumstance. So, Dr. Jasmine, what resources are out there to help people in that situation?
Yeah, I think one piece of information that people may not be aware of. So the Chicago Department of Public Health, we still operate 5 mental health clinics, and we do have services available for all Chicagoans, regardless of their ability to pay. So one of the first steps would be calling our clinic. Our phone number is 312-747-1020. And we offer teletherapy. In some circumstances, we can see people in person. If you feel that your home may not be safe to discuss what you need to discuss, we'll make exceptions in a way that would prevent infection from spreading. But we are there to discuss what your needs are and then try to connect you to the appropriate resources.
Morgan.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, most neighborhoods, it's usually like the whole neighborhood isn't bad, like Inglewood or South Shore. It goes block by block, and sometimes half a block, sometimes just one house on the block. And usually the majority of the people there want to see some change. And so that's what we've done on my block, which is quote unquote in a bad neighborhood. But the block is cool because we've got people and you got people that do other things, but the majority of people want things to, they want their kids to be able to go outside and ride the bike up and down the street. And so you have to network with people that are of the like mind on your block. So I can talk a lot.
Yeah, we keep losing Emon. I don't know what's going on. I hope she's able to get back in here. Ro, did you have something to add? Yeah. You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, no. So I just wanted to add that most jobs, check with your EAP, your Employment Assistance Program. And oftentimes you'll get free sessions, just to go ahead and vent or discuss whatever you need to discuss. And then from that point, you are able to transfer it to your insurance if you choose. But definitely check with your job and check out the EAP program and go talk to somebody. Go advocate for yourself.
That's good to know. So Emon, before we lost you, I was asking you about creating community through art. Have you found any ways to do that?
Thank you so much.
as everybody's internet, well, not y'all, my internet is jank. So I guess people are creating art on their internet or whatever. But I'm a teaching artist. I work for an organization called Young Chicago Authors. And so we do a lot around youth involvement with poetics, and also just constantly keep up, just keep folks inspired. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be a teaching artist of hosting open mics, leading workshops, getting folks prepared for Louder Than a Bomb, which is the biggest poetry festival in the country. But also for myself, I'm really blessed and motivated to have a fan base for my podcast, The Real Hoodwives of Chicago, where I'm able to have folks constantly remind me of the archive that I have created before.
Oh no, not freezing on The Real Hoodwives of Chicago, because I needed to know. I personally need to know about that. So
She'll come back.
Yeah, I was looking them up on Instagram right now. I was like, what did she say?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, besides, art and things like that, let's move on to talking about the uprisings. So the tribe, we really put a lot of work into covering the uprisings. And I mean, people were protesting like every day, almost for months. And I haven't seen anything happen collectively like that in my lifetime. I'm wondering, I've made a film about the movement for Black Lives, but it's about a wave of organizing that happened around 2015, around like the time when Laquan McDonald's case was just heating up with the release of the tape. And for the millennials like me, and the generation under us who is growing up during this age of gun violence, like inter-community violence, and also state violence on top of that, and us being in a generation that is angry, organizing, how sometimes I worry that we are not taking the proper steps to rest and take care of our mental health. What would you say to this activist community about ways that they can stay, healthy mentally?
Yeah.
Auntie, rich auntie therapist.
That's funny. I did work with a lot of millennials, especially during the time when everything was going on with George, with Floyd, particularly. And I have some white clients too that were kind of weird about coming to session while everything was going on. They didn't know what to say to me, and it was everybody was kind of anxious. And what I found was I had to let everybody know that everybody does not have to be out there in the protest, because there were some young people. I have a contract with the University of Chicago, and there were some of them that wanted to participate, but they were fearful of COVID. And it's like, you can find different kinds of way to participate. You can put up resources where you can get free groceries on your Instagram, or go give free water to people that are out there in the streets. You don't have to be in the crowd to assist in what's going on. And to our non-people of color, our white counterparts, or, again, you don't have to be a part of what's going on to support the cause. You don't have to add fuel to the flame. You can raise awareness. You can be there. You can listen effectively. Listen to people. Just be there, like you said, to hold space and to allow people to vent their frustrations. Because you had the safety issue about being out in the streets, but you also had the anger of, hey, this is not okay. I want to do something about it, and trying to find a balance in the middle. And what I encouraged everyone to do was to do what felt right for them. Again, you can make signs, you don't have to be out there carrying the signs. You can express yourself in different ways. And so I found that, you know, a lot of people wanted to participate, even though there were a lot of people out there. You know, there were people behind the lines or behind the fence or behind the scenes supporting those people, you know, bailing them out, you know, and all and those kind of things. I mean, another thing was the young people, there were a lot of young people that were out there that were participating in the unrest, but there was some Generation Xers. We were out there cleaning it up. You know, we were out there coming together and cleaning up those spaces. It created a opportunity for us to get together as a community and say, yes, we see that you're hurting, but we're gonna clean this up. And so you can participate in other ways.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. I'm always of the mindset that, you know, you can participate in the movement from where you are. So me, I'm a storyteller, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a publisher. So I work towards this cause through my work. But for me, I don't think I was mentally healthy this year. The amount of media consumption that I had to take in to just always stay on top of what's going on with COVID, and the information was changing every day, to stay on top of all of the protests that were happening. And there were multiple protests happening every day. And it was almost like we couldn't take a break. So, well, we feel like we can't take a break or we're not doing enough. Ro, weigh in. How do you feel on this topic? How do you give yourself that balance and that permission when we're in such a tense time for Black lives?
So for one, I would tell the activists to don't stop. You know, it's easy to get, so the whole experience as a community was very cathartic, you know, so it involves everybody. Some people was out there doing what they was doing, and then some people had to come in like clean it up. But I would say keep going. There's things that you can do now. Like voting really happens year round. Like get involved in your immediate community. Sometimes we think that's not good enough, but it is. If everybody in your community felt the same way, then your community, you know, will become stronger. But in terms of like the race relations, the thing that stood out to me most was like systemic racism. And specifically those conversations, when all of this was going on, the conversations that were being had in the workplace. And my issue was like throughout my career, you know, of working, when conversations of race come up, white people get real quiet. And I was noticing in the meetings that, hold on, why we are experiencing this emotional pain by having to watch one of our brothers get killed in the street. And now we got to come to work and explain and convince other people why we should be upset, you know, and that's just a problem. And then when you remain silent, what does the silence say? You know, and then when they may speak up, it's like tears and empathy only, you know, and the reality is, you know, we passed that, you know, I'm strong enough and the community is resilient enough, but we still need to get to some type of understanding so we can get to some real sustainable solutions, you know. So it was dealing with all the race relations at work and corporate while everything was going on. That was a learning experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Very true. I mean, I have to say we don't have that issue at the tribe because we Black owned over here. So we don't have to do any explaining to each other. So it's very important for us to have our own spaces. But I'm asking specifically about Black trauma, though. Like we're doing this work constantly. It doesn't seem like we can stop. How can we make sure that we are mentally, you know, sound and healing? Dr. Turner, you've worked, you said, with survivors of Katrina, other types of traumatic experiences. Can you weigh in on that?
Yeah. One of the things I found, you know, traditionally trained as we use the cognitive behavioral model of therapy. You know, we sit down and we talk. But there's so many other forms. Oh, Emon is back. Does she want to talk?
Right after you. Right after you.
Okay, I'll be quick. We use so many different, but now there's so many different forms of therapy to add on to the cognitive behavioral piece. I've been using yoga and movement and what they call mindfulness now is meditation for over 20 years, and that's what's needed. African Americans were meant to move. Children were meant to move, and there's ways that you can move and stay focused on the breathing. And you take these simple free techniques and then you use them and you employ them when you're in a difficult situation or before you make that difficult action based on your thinking. So it's providing cognitive behavioral therapy with some form of movement. I mean, we weren't meant to sit in our seats and talk all the time. You know, we need to get up and shake a little behind or do some breathing or do some stretching all the time. And so it's bringing those things in. And that was true in Katrina and in Haiti and in Sierra Leone. People need to move and breathe. And that's where the connection comes in with, because when we think that our brain is traumatized with memories and we have flashbacks and those sort of typical things that we see in trauma, the body is always in a state of tension. And where do you find trauma in the body? Everywhere. I mean, it's more noticeable in the shoulders and lower back and different things like that. But you have to work those areas and be aware of what you're doing. So more, I won't say physical exercise, but I would say therapeutic exercise. And dancing does it. Cycling does it. You don't have to go to the gym and lift, all that weight, but you need some type of breathing techniques and some movements.
Okay, so Emon is back, and we're gonna get this answer out this time because art can really provide an escape, and I feel like so many people, I mean, who isn't like on the streaming sites all day or on the internet all day looking for a way to escape? And now I just learned that you got some kind of Hood Wives podcast, so you got to tell us about that and about other ways you've been able to stay connected.
Yes, thank you so much for asking the question again, and thank you all for your patience. I'm on my phone because I paid my bill, so that's lit. So I have a podcast that's called The Real Hood Wives of Chicago, and COVID had definitely made a very hard stop to that because I was very reliant on, interpersonal, one-on-one, face-to-face interviews. Also, studios were shut down, so I had to try to think about all of that I'm able to do. So I kind of did like a poetry workshop thing, but that was just causing too much strenuous, just too much. It was a lot, and I wouldn't take care of myself, and that was my main focus. And so I think that, as I previously said, like, I had to ask myself, am I making this art to keep up with the time? Am I making this art out of nervous behavior? Am I making this art, out of anxiety or out of a moment of anger or frustration? And I started realizing that I wasn't writing poems because I was happy. I wasn't writing poems because they made me feel good. I was writing poems to get something out because I was frustrated. And then I noticed that all those poems turned out to be angry poems. And while I think that battle poems are a really beautiful thing, I want to also write about what highlights, my life in the everyday. Especially when I think about what Gwendolyn Brooks would write about. She wouldn't write about, when she said street poetry or writing what was under her nose. It wasn't just about, the trauma or the hardships that she was dealing with. It was also about, her writing a pastoral of everything of her neighborhood and of her home. And when you're so focused on just the output, there's two forms of art, of getting the art process. One is production and one consumption. And so when you're so focused on production, you're not realizing that you're taking in consumption, or you're not realizing the value of what that consumption is. So, yeah, that's my answer.
So what are you seeing as you work with the youth through YCA? How are y'all able to overcome these hurdles of COVID and things like that?
Well, we are in a virtual space completely now, and programming has not stopped. We're still doing wordplay, the longest you've run an open mic every Tuesday. I'm leading workshops. I was leading a 1-minute workshop on Instagram that I would later go in depth via Zoom. We're doing LTAP prep shops. We still have Check the Method, which is a writing workshop every Saturday. We have Rec Shop, which is a MC rap music workshop led by Add to a Def C every Saturday as well. So we're just always continuing to give programming. And I think we just really just want to continue to provide inspiration. And on the bright side, it keeps me intact to do my homework because I be lazy. Like, I be like, oh, what's a book? You know what I'm saying? But when you actually have to think about, hey, you're not just doing this for yourself. You're doing this to keep a time moving, to keep everybody moving. I try to see it as more of a blessing than just a great weight of responsibility. But as Shirley Chisholm says, service is the rent you pay for your room here on earth. So I constantly remind myself to be of service, to always keep my rent paid.
Dr. Jasmine, since we're talking about like youth and things like that, are there services for youth and mental health that the city is offering?
I know recently we, for our mental health division, we funded trauma-informed centers of care. So there are about 32 community mental health clinics or federally qualified clinics that we were able to increase funding to provide these mental health services. A great majority of the organizations that were funded are providing services to youth. And then also, in addition to youth, our maternal infant child division, we have this Family Connects program that reaches out to new moms and make sure that any services that they need to give their baby a healthy new start in life, that they're connected to those services as well. So if we have a healthy mother, we encourage the baby to be healthy growing up in their childhood, in their adolescence, and into young adulthood.
Thank you. I want to shift the conversation to, I'm like, we're going through so much, but gun violence. Gun violence has become such a dominant narrative in the story of Black Chicago. A part of it, I believe, was because there was an intense spotlight on this city when Obama was president, and that was like a main political talking point internationally. But this year we did see more suicides and more gun violence. For those of us who are dealing with those residual effects of losing a loved one, a friend to gun violence, what are some ways, some steps that we can start to grieve and heal from that? Auntie therapist, High Park therapist, are you seeing your clients dealing with residual effects of gun violence?
Am I muted?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, every day. What has happened is that we are in a place in our reality where it's looked at like nothing's wrong with gun violence, like on to the next. And what we need to do is recognize that this is not okay. People kind of get away with saying, well, this Chicago, this is the way it is. No, this is not okay. Somebody is dead. They are not here anymore. The family of the person that has been killed is forever changed. The family of the person that did the killing is forever changed. And we need to acknowledge that pain, and actually think about what that means. The loss of life is real. And I think that sometimes, unfortunately, we have become desensitized by it. We've lost a lot of people to gun violence. We're losing a lot of people I mean, with COVID too, it's a lot of loss. You know, some people feel like they've lost their freedom as far as being able to move around and rotate, or they've lost their connection and lost their social circles. Everybody's dealing with just a lot of loss of just their general feelings of safety. And to just recognize, yes, it is painful. Yes, this is a loss. Yes, this is not okay. But yes, we come from a people who keep rising anyway. And so,
can I just stop you there? I'm just looking for some concrete things that people can do, because not everyone can talk to a therapist or afford it. But for some of these young kids who are in neighborhoods where there's like sounds of violence, you know, that your mind and your body adapts to over time, or people who are just used to walking down the street and constantly doing this, constantly looking over their shoulder, like that type of trauma. Like, what are some things that they can do to kind of like overcome those types of mental health things?
you know what, there is no short answer to that. I do believe that they have to be vigilant all the time. Safety is number one. You know, if you know that something's going on, you need to get safe. And if you know that something's about to jump off, typically there's rumbling going on in the streets before things happen. Yes, things do happen spontaneously, but you need to be safe. You need to surround yourself and be in a place where you are safe. Safety is first. I don't think that there's any tip to get over the anxiety of hearing gunshots and knowing that your friends have been killed the day before, or what's going on in the neighborhood is actually happening. There's no quick fix to that. But acknowledging, yes, this is not okay, and yes, I have to stay safe. That is the priority.
Yeah, like Dr. Turner, you mentioned like going outside. And for me, going outside is actually very important. I have a completely different day if I'm able to muster up the energy to go for a walk or something like that. Just being in the sunshine, you know, whether it's sunny or if it's a cloudy day, kind of affects my mood sometimes. But not everyone can just like walk around the block safely. Like that's not a reality for everybody. What are some things that they can maybe do in their home that can be therapeutic, that can help them get out some of the traumas that they're experiencing?
Well, I think, you know, with this electronic age that we're in now, there are a lot of things that you can do. You can have like exercise sessions with your children. You can, whenever there's something, I mean, balance is all, you know, the police cameras and all that, it's always on TV. And you can, like I have a 13-year-old son. So every time there's something on the news, not every time, we go over it. Okay, what would you do in this situation? Why is this like this? So that's just me and him. But the thing is, in community, this is what I found. So I hear gunshots in my neighborhood. And so during the day when I'm walking down, I'm watching what are the children doing in terms of playing. And you can intervene. I intervene in terms of, you know, when they're doing some cursing and stuff like that, and walking by and heading towards school. So I intervene. I may never meet their parents, but I intervene and say, hey, you know, that's not how we talk. And most of the time they listen till they get past my house, and then it's back to their regular stuff. But I think you have to intervene, and you'd be surprised. There are a lot of like-minded people in the community. You know, my house is, you know, I've been here like 25 or 30 years. We hear gunshots, and you know, people have gotten shot, and we've got a lot of new young people moving in. There's an apartment building nearby, so I try to meet these people. Hello, how you doing? And they may be, you know, able to establish somewhat of a relationship. And when you talk to them, you find out that, hey, a lot of young adults want the good things in life as well. They may not know how to go about getting them, and they may have been traumatized too. And so it's creating some type of outlets within the community. And usually there's a lot of resources in the community if people would just look. And if not, hey, start something. Start something. Look to the local churches. It's churches everywhere, you know. Go. Usually churches have programs just for their ministry, just for their congregation. But there's a lot of, during the summer, there are book fairs at churches all up and down Jeffrey. And I'm like, what, you know, it's always a lot of stuff to do. You just have to find the resources in your community.
You know, I love the idea of using this time to create intergenerational connections. So Emon, you're working with youth. I'm wondering, do they help with your energy? Like, what are those interactions like?
They're so amazing and so inspiring. It's the bright-eyedness for me. You know what I'm saying? I miss teaching in person. It really fills me, because it's a challenge to show you how times are shifting. You know what I'm saying? Because like the youth, we're dependent on the youth. You know what I'm saying? I'm a person that believes in the pureness of etymology, and how language and definition of words are changing so much, and how their language is constantly growing, and for what that means for them. So for them to like just share so freely and so open, and just be so dedicated and consistent to the craft, to the pen, that's really beautiful. And also when they tell me like how my work inspires them, or, you know, the idea of lineage, how we still see lineage through poetry and storytelling. I feel like storytelling is one of the most influential and still important keys that we still have. And it's just really fulfilling just to be a part of that, and to help them like constantly carry on the tradition of storytelling for however that fits them, for whatever they want to say.
Yeah, that's so important. And it's very, very important for us to check up on our elders during this time. We know that a lot of them can sometimes be forgotten or left in isolation. Ro or Dr. Jasmine, can you talk a little bit about that, like what work can be done in that area?
Mm-hmm. I could start. There are some resources for those who do have access to the internet. The city has implemented a website, Windy City Wellness. If you visit 10%.com/Chicago, on it, there are a number of well-being exercises that people can use and practice for free. And also to touch upon the idea of that was raised earlier about resources for someone who may be feeling suicidal. There is a phone number people can call at any time. It's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and it's 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255. And for those who do not have internet access and you worry about isolation, especially those who may be older, I encourage the younger generation to reach out to them, either through a telephone call or even an old-fashioned writing a letter. You don't necessarily have to mail it. You could deliver it in person, but as long as you may have appropriate physical distancing in place. It's just important to know social distancing does not need to lead to isolation. So remember to check in on your loved ones.
Bro, did you have something to add?
Yeah, those some good resources. And I want to add 2 specific strategies, because I hear you asking for specifics, and I do think that is important. So as a community, and this kind of ties back to the gun violence question, I needed some time to reflect, because during my time with Chicago, for 5 years in a row, I lost a student. And that doesn't count the students that got shot, but actually got shot and died, you know. And when I'm sitting here reflecting, 3 of the 5 were straight A students. Like maybe they didn't make straight A's, but they also didn't do no work, didn't carry no book bag, you know, just naturally smart. right? And I remember one of them told me that, yo, Mr. Bowens, I got 2 lives. I don't have no choice. And he was talking about his street life and his school life, you know, and he was hopeless. And I know there's educators all across the city who are working with students who feel hopeless, you know, and that's a problem, you know. And one way to deal with that is mentorship. They might don't have no good mentor in the house. We know that. We can't keep pointing the finger if we're going to be a community. All right. So if you don't have a mentor, then you need to go or a mentee rather. Heck, get you a mentor and then you go get you a mentee, right? Do it both ways.
Yeah.
But
And
the other specific thing is journaling. Okay, journaling is a fundamental therapeutic task that you can do. And Dr. Turner brought up CBT earlier, and a key part of CBT is identifying your ants. Ants is an acronym for automatic negative thoughts. So whether you're grieving, whether you're dealing with trauma, we all have them, automatic negative thoughts, but they powerful. Like just like ants, the real ants, they can carry 10 to 100 times their body weight. Those little thoughts that you have all day long is having an impact because your thoughts dictate your behavior, and your behavior is what either leads to your success or leads to challenges, you know. So I just encourage everybody to identify your ants. And here are the 3 things you do. When you identify your negative thoughts, you can refocus them, you can reframe them, or you can remove them. All right. And you can like look all this up. CBT, ants, automatic negative thoughts.
That was really, really helpful. Dr. Turner.
yeah, and I would just say what Rose was talking about. One of the things too, the best place I think to have mentorship is in the schools. Children spend 7 hours a day in CPS, and so you can always say that, hey, stuff starts at home, but I don't even want to walk down there. The problem is displayed in the school. The problem with the schools is a lot of people who could provide good mentorship may have gone to the joint once or twice. And so they're going to have a very difficult time getting in there into the schools. So that's a problem. And I understand the schools need to protect them. And schools do have social emotional learning programs, but true mentorship for children's in neighborhood schools, um, that's the key of seeing people in the neighborhood that they can talk to in the schools.
If I can add something to that, I think another key thing that might be important that is necessary to also implement if we're talking about youth directly is that they should also be doing things for fun because it feels fun to them. If we're looking at the scope or landscape of education now, these students are on Zoom for like 7 hours a day. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know how accessible, like, you know, a workshop or things like that, like, you know, might be motivating them. But I know everybody is listening to music. Everybody is, you know, watching some type of television. So just be mindful of what consumption looks like for you and always try to turn that into something. Inspiration is everything around you, and really just be inspired by what is most accessible to you. And that's what I would say.
So important. As we wrap up, I would love to go to each of you to talk about, oh, look at me, fully in HD finally. Wow, at the end of the conversation. I just wanted to ask you all, if you were making a vision board for Black Chicago specifically, what would you put on that board? Let's start with Hyde Park therapist, Nyela.
I think one of the things, well, I actually do a vision board every year. And one of the things that I actually personally put on my vision board is creativity. You know, when we tune into our creativity, things happen from the inside out, not the outside in. So when we're creative, that's when we can fill ourselves and fill the room with things that edify us. So creativity.
Emon, what about you?
If I can be very specific, I do have a plan that is coming into fruition. So I would like to, I have a plan to create a talk show for myself using my podcast as a vessel. And I'll be working on another manuscript for my poetics. And I like to, I guess in totality, thoroughness. Being thorough about my endeavors is what's creation looking like for me.
Ro, what about you? What would be on your vision board for Black Chicago?
I would say to embrace mental health, you know, to reduce some of that stigma, you know, talking about mental health, going, seeking mentorship, counseling, therapists, you know, it's a skill-based and solution-focused approach to helping you achieve your goals, you know, so it's something that everyone should do. And yeah, so my vision would be to just reduce the stigma around mental health.
Dr. Turner.
Yeah, this is gonna take about 20 minutes, but
Go
anyway,
ahead.
no, you know, getting to know your neighbors, getting to know your neighbor, providing more services in school. I used to work at the juvenile detention center, and I had the young group. They were like 10 to 14, and all of them, every last one of them, had problems when they were in school. Okay, and you can just see it. The kid who got passed on because the teacher didn't want to have him again. And some of them were really brilliant, but it was just their emotions that they let consume them. So we need more services in school. Now, I would make of course it's not going to happen, make every school a neighborhood school, you know, and then make that school the best school that there is. You know, how come the neighborhood school here can't be as good as Whitney Young? It's because the services aren't provided and you're selecting the students. How come the students who are here, I'll be quiet. How come the students who are here can't be taught how to learn, regardless of their situation at home? So it takes advocacy on working with the students where they are physically, and that is in the schools. And you need to get to know your neighbors. I'm done.
And Dr. Jasmine?
Yeah, so I have some broad goals for everyone to think about. Evaluate the previous year and any events that occurred that didn't go as planned for yourself, and then consider whether or not you want to continue to pursue those goals into this year. The world is so much different in 2021, January 2021, than it was in January 2020. And it's perfectly normal to have your goals reflect today's new normal. So it's okay to change your goals and make it different from last year. And on a practicality side, I encourage everyone to get vaccinated. The vaccine is here. If you want to learn more about it, go to chicago.gov/COVIDvax and be informed and make an informed decision.
Now we know for Black folks, the whole vaccination conversation is a whole nother thing. So if you need that conversation, we already did a TRiiBE Tuesday on that. So go to our YouTube page. We talk about kind of like some of the fear and, you know, misinformation out about COVID and the vaccine. On my vision board and my goal setting, my goals is to insert a little bit of beauty into my day. So, you know, I have some fresh flowers behind me, but little things like that of just like buying some flowers at the grocery store can really kind of set the tone for my day. I've been buying like a lot of candles and things like that because making my home a sanctuary is something that I haven't had the time to do while building the TRiiBE. I've been just like work. But now I'm really trying to take the time to just embrace beauty. And I hope that you all get a chance to do that too. To our audience and everybody following the TRiiBE, thank you so much for being on this journey with us. I hope that we are able to I don't know that we can start with a clean slate. We have so many like residual effects of everything that we've gone through, but you know, we're a beautiful and resilient people, and I know that we can get through this together. So thank you to all of our guests for being here. I really, really appreciated it. This is a monthly panel series, usually the last Tuesday of every month. And if you have any topics that you want us to cover, you can hit us up, hit up Anthony, our outreach coordinator at connect@thetribe.com. And that's it, you all. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.